Hi, I'm Chandler. I'm 6'1". I'm an Aquarius. And in my free time, I like to take long walks in abandoned cemeteries. If you're lucky, maybe someday we'll get together and do a rubbing. Maybe. Sorry, that's too cheesy even for me. Welcome to Chandler's Travels. We are in the old town of Evergreen, taking a look at the history of John Wesley Hardin and some of the other outlaws that used to call this ghost town home. Hope you'll enjoy it. Howdy. I am here underneath the second oldest tree in Texas. Now, that's of course the second oldest tree that we know of, that we can confirm. But this live oak tree, this evergreen tree, is estimated to be about 400 years old. It at one point was the centerpiece of a whole town that once existed on what is now a farm to market road to use as a shortcut between the 290 and the 21. That's why there's so many loud trucks that are going by, such as one coming up right now. If I'm doing this right, I'll be talking into the microphone in a way to where it won't be too distracting. But this evergreen tree was seen by Louis St. Denis when he was mapping out this whole area, creating the El Camino Real, which follows much of what Highway 21 is. So this little portion of what is now Lee County, in the late 1700s, Louis St. Denis or Denis came through here and saw this very tree that I am under right now. Later on, in 1836, Dr. J.M. Stockton set up an inn right behind this tree. And one of the folklore says that Sam Houston got his wagon stuck in the mud right here on this road and ended up staying the night here on his way from Washington on the Brazos to Gonzales. I'm not quite sure if that all bears out, but what we do know is that Sam Houston would have stayed at Dr. Stockton's stagecoach inn here many times, because this road that is now a farm-to-market road passed by this very inn. This road was the main Houston to Austin road, which was created in the late 1830s to connect Houston to Austin. So that's what brought all the stagecoaches and all of the life that eventually happened here. By the 1850s, 60s, 70s, this became a bustling town. It had schools and churches and saloons, and as we'll talk about in a minute, John Wesley Hardin, Bill Longley would all be walking this very road in a town that no longer exists because of multiple railroads and highways that ended up bypassing it. And now there's a hay company that is where the old J.M. Stockton stagecoach inn was, and cattle pasture where all the rest of these saloons and churches were. But that's all that's left of Evergreen, Texas. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that happened here in a moment. All right, howdy. So, I am on the trail to find the old Evergreen Cemetery. So, there are only two things left from the old town of Evergreen. That is the tree, the live oak tree, over 400 years old, and the cemetery. Cemetery is on private land, but as in accordance with the laws of cemeteries, it is accessible to the public. What I did was I called the Lee County Historical Commission, and they told me that anybody's welcome to go over here. So I don't think I'm trespassing, but you know, if you hear any shots in the background, well, then I might be another addition to the cemetery. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, the directions were that I would keep walking down this path, and then I would find an L, and I would follow that L to the cemetery. But we'll see. Anyways, also, what I forgot to mention over there by the tree is that occasionally they would have court underneath that tree. And if the suspected horse thief or gambler or outlaw was found guilty, the stories say that they would just string him up right on that tree. I'm not so sure about that one either. There's actually superstition about that, saying that whatever tree has been used to hang someone, the tree wouldn't survive much longer. The tree would die. So, okay, I'm seeing an L. I'm gonna take this L, follow the fence down. But Old Town Evergreen was it was a wild, rambunctious place. So I'm sure that there were quite a few outlaws that met their fate through gunshots or through the justice system, and then might be carted off down this pathway that we're walking right now to the cemetery. Well, there's another gate coming up, so I've got to open that. All right, well, we've made it past another gate. Now, some of the people that are supposed to be buried over here, J.M. Stockton apparently got in a gunfight with his brother Gus, and they killed each other in a gunfight. So their graves are supposed to be over here. Ooh. All right, well, it's been about an hour. I've gotten turned around quite a few times, met some new friends, but no sign of a cemetery. So I'm just gonna start making my way back, see if there's any turns that I've missed, and then head back home. Well, all my new friends are coming home with me. I didn't really intend on this being the outcome of the journey, but I guess hopefully they don't think I'm a cattle rustler, because then I really will be in the Evergreen Cemetery. So things got a little bit too busy in the ghost town of Evergreen. The company there that sells hay, they were moving a whole bunch of stuff, going in reverse, lots of beep, 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 beep. So we had to get out of there. I'm now in a park in Giddings, but there's a few more stories I wanted to share from the old town of Evergreen. One of them involves another doctor. So J.M. Stockton is the doctor that got everything started there. But later on, after the Civil War, there was a doctor named W.L. Johnson. And he was from Kentucky, which is very interesting because after his service as a surgeon in the Civil War, he moves to Lexington, Texas, which is just the town north of Evergreen. So he moves to Lexington, Texas, so similar to Lexington, Kentucky, and he gets married there in Lexington, and then he moves to Evergreen right on the Houston to Austin road. So right on that 1624 is what it is today, that connects to 77 to 21 with all those people trying to bypass that intersection. He lived right on that road, maybe very close to the evergreen tree, don't know. But one evening in 1867, he was sitting on his porch, and there was a young man that comes by on a horse and says, "I need a doctor." And so Dr. Johnson says, "What do you need? Where do you need me to go?" And the guy is a little bit cagey, and he goes, "I can't really describe it to you. I'm new to the area, but if you come with me, I'll show you where our sick person is." So Dr. Johnson takes that for what it is, and he grabs his doctor's kit, and he follows the young man east. And he meets the place where the intersection of El Camino Real and the Yegua Creek. And at that intersection, they stop, and about 4 or 5 other guys start coming out from the shadows. And they say, "You don't get to see the next part of this journey." So they wrap him up in a blindfold, they spin him around a few times, and then he has no idea where he's going. He stays in the blindfold. They ride for hours, and eventually he starts to see, or he starts to feel them slowing down, and he starts to hear dogs barking, like there's a fence nearby, and they get to this house, and they take the blindfold off, and the guy that he needs to treat, he's not sick with anything but lead poisoning. He's got a gunshot wound. And there's not much that the doctor can do, but he does provide some clean bandages. He cleans the wound, he sutures it up the best that he can, and then he describes one of the chilliest meals he's ever had, as he knows that this is a gang of outlaws on the Yegua Creek, and so they have some woman there that's prepared them a meal of bacon and cornbread and black coffee, and it's just completely silent. You just hear the clinking of the silverware on the plates, and the whole meal, the doctor is just studying every single one of these guys, every one of these bandits, in case he ever comes across them again, he knows he can turn around and go the other way. So after this silent meal of bacon and cornbread, he goes back to the front porch. He checks on his patient, says that there's not much that he can do, but if they think that they need him again, they know where to find him. So the guys put the blindfold back on him. They take him back to the crossing where El Camino Real met Yegua Creek, and they leave him there. And then Dr. Johnson found his way back to Evergreen and to his home, and never heard from the bandits again. So that was Dr. W.L. Johnson's midnight ride. Another interesting story from a town that doesn't exist anymore. Eventually, Dr. Johnson would find his way here to Giddings. So I guess it's somewhat apropos that I now find myself in Giddings telling this story about Dr. Johnson. So there are a couple of stories that come from old Evergreen that pertain to John Wesley Hardin. In our last episode, we talked about Wesley Hardin and his time at Brenham. Now, Brenham isn't that too far away from Evergreen, just a little bit to the east of it. And after John Wesley Hardin had figured that he wasn't cut out for the whole farming life, he headed west, and Evergreen was his first stop. So Evergreen, as we've kind of mentioned in our talk so far, it was pretty wild. Sure, there were churches and stores and schoolhouses and semblances of civilized life, but there was a lot of rowdy cowboys and outlaws and poker games just breaking out on the side of the road, and horse races was a big thing in Evergreen. So quite a lively experience, and John Wesley Hardin decided that was more the pace of life that he was looking for. So he goes to Evergreen, and the first person that he comes in contact there with is one of these outlaws who runs around with Bloody Bill Longley. His name is Ben Hines. And John Wesley Hardin and Ben Hines, they strike up a game. I think it might be 7-Up, and John Wesley Hardin wins. He wins over $30 off of Ben Hines, and decides he'd like to quit while he's ahead. So he starts to pick up his winnings and starts to move on. And Ben Hines is very upset about all this. He's lost this $30 to this kid. John Wesley Hardin's about 17 years old. Already he's known throughout Texas as a killer, has several notches on his 6-gun for the men that he left dead, as Marty Robbins might sing about. Either way, it's just this kid. He's 17 years old, and Ben Hines is quite a bit older than that. And he gets all upset, and he says, if you weren't a kid, I'd tan your hide right now. And John Wesley Hardin, now of course all of these stories come from John Wesley Hardin's autobiography. So whether John Wesley Hardin actually said these things when he was 17 years old, or just thought about them, I mean, the greatest script writers couldn't come up with lines as good as this. So John Wesley Hardin supposedly said to Ben Hines, don't let my young face get in the way of your good intentions. If you want to fight, I'm ready to fight you right now. And Ben Hines was incensed by this. He draws his 6-gun. John Wesley Hardin draws his. And then all the other guys that are around them, all these other outlaws, take note of what's going on here. They get on Ben Hines' side, and they start lunging at John Wesley Hardin. Hardin draws his other gun. And he says, the first person who moves, I'll blow their head off. And that sort of calmed everything down, and all the rest of these guys who had no skin in this fight to begin with start to quiet and back off. And Ben Hines says, you are truly a giant in a young man's shoes. You are welcome to my winnings. And so that's how the two of them met and had quite a encounter on the streets of Old Evergreen. Another story that comes later that night is the first meeting of John Wesley Hardin and Bloody Bill Longley. We'll talk a little bit more about Bill Longley in this episode, and then I have plans to have subsequent episodes that go more into his life. Someone on par, maybe not as well known today, but back then was synonymous with the most renowned outlaws of Texas. So in the middle of the night, John Wesley Hardin is camping underneath a tree, and he hears somebody come up from him from behind, and it's Bill Longley. And Bill Longley says, John Wesley Hardin, you're working with the Reconstruction Police. You're working with the state police coming after me, and I'm going to kill you right now. This is preposterous because the state police are after John Wesley Hardin just the same as they're after Bill Longley. And so Hardin says, you believe a damned lie. And if you're gonna kill me, you better come in front of me so it's a fair fight. And again, after hearing all this braggadocio from the 17-year-old kid, Bill Longley calms down, and the two of them would later have a poker game, which we'll talk about in another moment. Again, with all these stories that are coming from John Wesley Hardin's perspective, some 20, 30 years after they actually took place, how accurate are they? We don't know. But certainly worthy of a good story to tell, and worthy of a trip to Evergreen and to this area of east central Texas to see where these stories sort of played out. So another story that comes to us about John Wesley Hardin's time in Evergreen. It's about a poker game. Happens just on the side of the road. Say maybe even in a corn crib, just some log cabin shack on the side of the main Houston to Austin road. And the game took place between two of the most renowned men of the Wild West. John Wesley Hardin and Bloody Bill Longley. Now, Bloody Bill was from Evergreen, grew up here, and, well, his life story would end just down the road in Giddings. He was the first man ever hanged from the Lee County Courthouse in Giddings. They were actually caught at the same time, Bloody Bill, John Wesley Hardin, but they hanged Bloody Bill, and they just gave John Wesley Hardin 20 years. Bloody Bill didn't enjoy that fact too much. And that's probably a good reason why this story comes after Bloody Bill had met his fate. It comes to us from John Wesley Hardin, the biography that he wrote while he was in prison. So he talks about his time in Evergreen and that there's this poker game that got set up on the side of the road. 4 men, 2 of them being John Wesley Hardin and Bloody Bill Longley. So the pot starts to get bigger and bigger, up to $50. At that point, the 2 other guys, they fold. And it's just down to Bloody Bill, John Wesley Hardin. So Hardin, he antes up, he puts another $50 in there. And Bloody Bill says, I'm anteing up too. But he doesn't put anything in the pot. And Hardin looks at him and says, well, you betting wind or you betting money? And Bloody Bill says, I'm betting money. So he digs around and he finds some gold pieces and he puts a few more into the pot there. And then John Wesley Hardin, he looks down at his cards and he's got 3 jacks. And he decides to pull one more card. And Bloody Bill then says, I'm anteing. I'm putting in $250. I don't have it on me, but I'm good for it. It'll be an IOU. John Wesley Hardin says, no. Bloody Bill says, fine. He digs around and he finds some more gold coins. He gets it up to $220 and he says, I'm good for the other 30. John Wesley Hardin says, no. Bloody Bill says, well, fine. Pot is $220. That's what I'm adding to the pot there, and I call. So John Wesley Hardin says, I reckon you got me beat. Bloody Bill says, I bet I do, because I've got 3 of a kind. 3 aces. Aces high. So pair and 3 aces. And Bloody Bill starts to move that pot towards him. John Wesley Hardin says, now wait just a minute there, friend. I've got 2 pair. And Bloody Bill says, well, 2 pair ain't worth nothing. John Wesley Hardin says, it's worth something if they're all jacks. He had 4 of a kind, all 4 jacks. And then John Wesley Hardin scooches that pot back over to him. Now apparently the 2 walked away that day as friends. Later on, they went and saw the horse races in Evergreen later the next day. And then their paths kind of diverged from there on. John Wesley Hardin wasn't in Evergreen anymore. He went on to more infamous things. But it's interesting to think that in this town that no longer exists, at one time had a poker game between two of the most renowned outlaws in the Wild West. Well, my trip to see the Evergreen Cemetery didn't quite work out the way that I had hoped. I did make some new cow friends, but they couldn't fit in the Jeep back with me, so I left them back where they were, which is just as good. As I may have added trespassing, but I didn't really want to add cattle rustling to the list of crimes that I've committed today. But hey, it's fitting within the stories we've been talking about of outlaws like John Wesley Hardin. Chandler O'Quinn fits right in there with his occasional trespassing to try and see historic cemeteries. But that's our journey to Evergreen. As I've said a few times in doing these videos, it's interesting to think that a town that was so brimming with life doesn't exist anymore. And that's all because of transportation, how the railroad and highways bypassed it, and now it's just ranch land where cows like to hang out. But I guess that's just about it for our journey to Evergreen. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about our channel so that I can take even more people along with me on my journeys. Till next time, vaya con Dios.